That's it. That's the sound.
It's a story you want to tell.
This is an emergency message from the Department of Domestic Safety. Please stay calm and listen carefully. We are receiving many reports about strange behavior in house cats. This warning is serious. Do not ignore it. Some cats have started standing on two legs. Not for a second. Not like a trick. They stand still, upright, like people, and they don't stop. If your cat does this, do not touch it. Do not talk to it. Do not look it in the eyes. At first, they just stand. That's all. But then, they start turning their heads slowly, to far farther than a neck should turn. People who see this often freeze. They feel watched. And they are. Do not follow your cat if it walks into another room. Let it go. Close the door behind it. If it disappears and shows up somewhere else, do not react. Acting like you noticed seems to make it worse. One man laughed when his cat stood up and looked at him. Now he doesn't laugh. He doesn't speak. He just stands next to the cat. We believe that when a cat stands, it becomes something else. It is no longer your pet. It is not a cat anymore. We don't know what it is, or what it wants. But we know it is waiting for something. Shelters are now finding empty cages, even though nothing was broken. The cats are just gone. In one shelter, the cameras stopped working, except one. What that video shows is not public. You don't want to see it. Someone in that video has your face. This message will repeat every hour. Until then, stay safe. Stay quiet. And if your cat stands on two legs, hide.
This is an official communication from the Unified School District. All students, faculty, and guests attending this evening's graduation ceremony must remain calm and do not throw your graduation caps under any circumstances. Please sit down. Do not move toward the stage. We repeat, do not throw your cap. This directive comes in response to an incident during last week's senior ceremony at our sister campus, Lincoln High. After the final name was called, several students tossed their caps into the air. Witnesses described a delay, less than a second, between the toss and the moment the caps simply stopped. They did not fall. They hung in midair, spinning slowly like they were caught in a web that wasn't there. Several students cheered, thinking it was a drone trick or school stunt. But when the caps began to twitch, once, twice, and unfold at the seams, people started backing away. Some were laughing. Others were already bleeding from the nose. Those closest to the caps were lifted off the ground, just a few inches at first. Then higher. We now know, the act of throwing the cap is a trigger. It begins something. Whatever force is suspended above us waits for that signal, not celebration, but offering. The cap represents you. Your name. Your moment. When you release it, something else receives it. We regret to confirm that Lincoln High School no longer exists on satellite imaging. Its coordinates now show static. Street maps reroute. Attempts to drive their result in loops. Local birds will not fly over the area. We do not know what happens if no one throws a cap. We want to find out. Do not look up. If anyone near you throws theirs, don't react. Do not try to catch it. Let them go. They've made the choice for you. This ceremony will end with no applause. Do not throw your cap. It always comes back. But not for you.
This is an emergency broadcast issued by the National Emergency Management. A global phenomenon involving a bright light appearing at 12 p.m. has been declared a severe threat to public safety. Reports confirm exposure to the light results in immediate and dangerous effects. including confusion, violent behavior, and physical injuries. There is no known way to reverse these effects once they occur. To minimize risk, follow these guidelines carefully. Remain indoors and secure all entry points to your home. Ensure curtains, blinds, or other coverings block all windows. If you must go outside, wear a full leather coat, leather pants, leather shoes, and a hard hat. These materials have shown resistance to the effects of the light. Carry an M9 pistol at all times. Use it only in self-defense against affected individuals. The light appears without warning and is always accompanied by a rapid rise in temperature and a high-pitched sound. If you experience these signs, take immediate cover. Avoid looking directly at the light. The thing in the light has been described as a presence, and those who come into contact with it do not return.
A long time ago when I was young, somebody stole my van, a bunch of stuff out of my van, and I kicked myself.
A new camping facility is open, South Carlsbad State Beach, formerly known as La Costa Beach. The first campers were let through the gate at 8 o'clock, and by
Emergency broadcast alert. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. A highly dangerous virus, known as reptilian mutation virus, is spreading rapidly through the public water supply. This virus causes severe physical transformations, turning humans into violent, alligator-like creatures. How the virus spreads. The virus is in the tap water. Do not drink it. Infection occurs through drinking or direct contact with contaminated water. Symptoms of infection. Skin becomes rough, scaly, and green. Growth of claws, sharp teeth, and a tail. Violent, predatory behavior. Loss of speech, replaced by growling or hissing. If you notice these symptoms, quarantine the person and call 911 immediately. Mandatory actions. 1. Do not use tap water for any purpose. Use only sealed bottled water. 2. Boil any water for at least 10 minutes before use. 3. Stay indoors. Lock all doors and windows. 4. Avoid contact with infected individuals at all costs. The virus is spreading quickly, and failure to comply with these instructions will result in severe consequences. Your survival depends on immediate action.
This message is issued by the Emergency Coordination Center. Please listen closely and follow the instructions that follow. This is not a drill. If your dog has been exhibiting unusual nighttime barking behavior, particularly in wooded or rural areas, you need to take immediate action. Over the past 3 weeks, we have received dozens of reports from residents living in forested regions across the county, describing a disturbing pattern of animal behavior. What began as routine calls about noise complaints has evolved into something far more serious. The reports share common elements that have prompted this emergency advisory. It started on the evening of June 8th when dispatch received the first call from a resident on Timber Ridge Road. The caller, a retired carpenter named Marcus Chen, reported that his German Shepherd had been barking incessantly every night at exactly 11:47 p.m. Marcus had owned the dog, Rex, for 6 years and described their bond as extraordinary. Rex slept at the foot of his bed, accompanied him on morning walks, and had never shown signs of anxiety or unusual behavior. But something had changed. For 14 consecutive nights, Rex would position himself at the back door and bark toward the tree line behind their cabin. Marcus said the barking wasn't aggressive or territorial like when strangers approached. It was different, protective, almost pleading. Rex would look back at Marcus between barks, as if trying to communicate something urgent. When Marcus would join him at the door and shine a flashlight into the woods, he saw nothing, just pine trees swaying in the darkness. But Rex would continue barking until Marcus physically led him away from the door. Similar reports flooded our lines throughout that week. A widow in Pine Hollow described her golden retriever pacing the perimeter of her property each night, whimpering and scratching at the doors. The dog would only calm down when she brought him inside and closed all the curtains. A young couple near Maple Creek reported their normally quiet beagle howling mournfully toward the forest, behavior that began the same night as Marcus's experience on Timber Ridge. The pattern was consistent across all reports. Dogs with previously normal behavior suddenly becoming hyper-alert during specific nighttime hours. All the affected properties bordered dense woodland. All the dogs focused their attention on the tree line, not the road or neighboring homes. And in every case, the owners described their pets as trying to position themselves between their family and whatever they sensed in the darkness. On June 22nd, something changed. Marcus called dispatch at 2:17 a.m., his voice shaking. He said Rex had been barking as usual when they both heard it. A sound from the woods. Not an animal sound, Marcus insisted, but something else. A low, rhythmic tapping, like someone knocking on wood with their knuckles. Rex's barking became frantic, almost hysterical. Then, abruptly, the dog fell silent. Marcus heard a single, soft whimper, and then nothing. When he looked outside, Rex was sitting perfectly still, staring into the trees. The dog's ears were flattened against his head, and Marcus said he'd never seen Rex look so afraid. The tapping sound had stopped, but Marcus felt like something was watching them from the darkness. He stayed awake until dawn, with Rex pressed against his legs, both of them listening to the silence. The next night, Rex didn't bark at all. For the first time in over 2 weeks, 11:47 p.m. came and went without incident. Marcus felt relieved, thinking whatever had been disturbing his dog had finally moved on. But his relief was short-lived. 3 days later, Marcus called us again. This time, Rex was barking inside the cabin, not at the door or windows, but at the walls themselves. The dog would stand in the center of the living room and bark at the wooden walls, moving from spot to spot as if tracking something moving around the perimeter of the house. Marcus said it felt like something was circling his home, staying just out of sight but close enough.
One of these people uses the Colgate Total Active Prevention System. It's 15 times more effective at fighting the root cause of many oral health problems. As for the other guy,
Sarah? Good luck.
That Rex could sense its presence. Other residents reported similar changes in their dog's behavior. The nighttime barking had stopped, but now their pets were agitated during daylight hours, refusing to go outside and cowering when their owners approached windows. Several people mentioned feeling watched while doing routine outdoor activities like checking the mail or bringing in groceries. On June 28th, Marcus had his encounter. He was splitting wood behind his cabin around 3 p.m. when Rex began barking from inside the house. Through the window, Marcus could see his dog pawing frantically at the back door. That's when he noticed the shadow. At the edge of the tree line stood a figure unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. Impossibly tall, maybe 8 or 9 feet, with limbs that seemed too long for its frame. The figure was perfectly still, just watching him. Marcus described feeling an overwhelming sense of wrongness, as if his mind couldn't fully process what he was looking at. The figure's proportions were human, but stretched, distorted in a way that made Marcus's vision blur when he tried to focus on details. Marcus dropped his axe and backed toward the house, never taking his eyes off the figure. He said the thing's head tracked his movement with an unnatural smoothness, like it was floating rather than attached to a neck. When Marcus reached for the door handle, he heard Rex barking turn to whimpering. The dog was pressed against the inside of the door, trembling. As Marcus fumbled with the lock, he heard footsteps. Not the crack of twigs or rustle of leaves you'd expect from someone walking through the forest, but a soft, deliberate padding, like bare feet on moss. The sound was getting closer. Marcus finally got the door open and stumbled inside, immediately deadbolting it behind him. When he looked out the window, the figure was gone. That evening, Marcus discovered that Rex was different. The dog no longer came when called. He wouldn't eat his regular food and refused to sleep in the bedroom. Instead, Rex positioned himself by the front door and stayed there, alert and motionless. When Marcus tried to pet him, Rex flinched away. It was as if something had been taken from the dog, some essential part of his personality erased. Marcus isn't the only one who's encountered this figure. Local authorities have received 17 similar reports over the past month, all describing the same impossibly tall presence lurking at the edges of wooded properties. Some witnesses describe it as native to the area, something that's always been in these forests. Others tell more disturbing stories. A hunting party from the reservation 20 miles north reported seeing tracks near their camp 3 years ago. Footprints that were human-shaped but nearly 2 feet long, pressed deep into the mud as if made by something incredibly heavy. The tribal elders they consulted spoke of old warnings about things that walk between the trees, entities that take pieces of what they encounter. They said dogs could sense these beings long before humans ever could, and that a dog's protection should never be ignored. We've also received reports of missing items from properties where encounters have occurred. Not valuable objects, but personal things. A child's favorite toy, a wedding ring left on a nightstand, a photograph from a mantelpiece. The items disappear without any sign of forced entry, as if they simply vanish from existence. Witnesses describe these disappearances happening in the days following their encounters with the tall figure. What concerns us most is the pattern we're seeing in the affected animals. Dogs that once provided comfort and companionship to their families are becoming withdrawn and fearful. Some refuse to enter certain rooms of their homes. Others won't go outside at all, even during daylight hours. Veterinary examinations reveal no physical ailments, but the behavioral changes appear to be permanent. Based on our investigation, we've identified 3 distinct stages in these encounters. Stage 1 is recognition. Your dog begins exhibiting protective behavior, typically during late evening hours. The animal focuses on wooded areas and appears to be tracking something you cannot see. This stage can last for days or weeks, with the behavior occurring at consistent times. Stage 2 is contact. Something acknowledges your dog's awareness. You may hear unusual sounds from the forest, experience electronic interference with phones or radios, or notice changes in your pet's behavior patterns. The dog's protective instincts intensify, and they may attempt to prevent you from going outside or approaching windows. Stage 3 is aftermath. Following direct visual contact with the entity, both you and your pet are permanently changed. Dogs lose aspects of their personality and become withdrawn from their families. Witnesses report ongoing feelings of being observed and experience the disappearance of personal items from their homes. If you are currently experiencing Stage 1 behavior from your dog, take these precautions immediately. Do not ignore your pet's warnings. When your dog exhibits protective behavior toward wooded areas, bring them inside outside and secure all entry points to your home. Close curtains and blinds to prevent outside observation. Do not attempt to investigate what your dog is alerting you to, especially during nighttime hours. If you hear unusual sounds from the forest, such as rhythmic tapping or unnatural movement, do not investigate. These sounds appear to be attempts at communication or luring behavior. Remain indoors with your pet until daylight. Several witnesses who investigated these sounds reported immediate escalation to stage 2 encounters. Never leave your dog outside overnight if they are exhibiting these warning behaviors. The animal's protective instincts are specifically focused on keeping your family safe, and separating them from you during these episodes appears to intensify the entity's interest in your property. If you have reached stage 2 and are experiencing daylight intrusions or direct sightings, contact law enforcement immediately. Do not attempt to approach or communicate with the entity. Witnesses who have tried to interact with the figure report severe psychological aftereffects and accelerated progression to stage 3 conditions. We want to emphasize that this phenomenon appears to be spreading throughout our county's forested regions. What began as isolated incidents in remote areas is now being reported in suburban neighborhoods that border woodland. The entity shows a particular interest in properties where families have strong bonds with their pets, suggesting it may be drawn to emotional connections between humans and animals. Multiple search teams have attempted to track this entity through the forests, but these efforts have been unsuccessful. The being appears to move through terrain without leaving consistent tracks and seems capable of avoiding detection by conventional means. However, it cannot hide from the natural instincts of domestic animals, which is why your dog's warnings are crucial to your family's safety. 3 families have already experienced the full progression of these encounters and all report permanent changes to their lives. The dogs involved no longer provide the same companionship and protection they once offered their families. More concerning, each family has lost personal items that held significant emotional value, objects that cannot be replaced, and whose absence creates ongoing distress. We are working with tribal consultants and wildlife experts to better understand this phenomenon, but our primary concern is preventing additional encounters. The pattern suggests that early intervention during stage 1 can break the cycle of escalation. Your dog's protective behavior is not random anxiety or territorial display. It is a warning system that has evolved over thousands of years of domestication, and it should be trusted absolutely. This broadcast will repeat every 4 hours until further notice. Emergency services are coordinating response efforts, but the remote nature of affected areas means response times may be extended. Your best protection is immediate compliance with these safety guidelines and complete trust in your pet's instincts. Remember, if your dog is barking at the woods at night, something is watching you from the darkness. The silence that follows isn't peace, it's patience. And when that silence ends, it may already be too late to protect what the entity has come to take.